anyone who's excited about Andor is excited because of Rogue One. In fact, even when I interviewed the cast recently, more than one of them said the whole reason they even signed on for this project was because they loved Rogue One so much. Easily the most sophisticated Star Wars film. It's my personal favorite, and what I chose to watch this year on May the 4th. And I had an amazing time. So good! Holds up, total rewatchability factor. It's amazing. And Rogue One made $1 billion at the box office, as it deserved. Yet for some reason, despite that popularity and so many people saying they love the movie so much, interest going into Andor has been low. And I'm curious to hear why you think that might be. Why is your interest low? Or why do you think other people's interest is low? Because the trailer view counts, you might be like, why are you even saying this, Grace? Well, the trailer view counts are low, far behind the Disney Plus, other Disney Plus Star Wars live action shows. We're talking in the animation ballpark. And the animated shows do get renewed, and they please the very, very core fandom of Star Wars, which I'm sure are some of you typing right now. But that's not a big enough audience to warrant the budget for a big live action show like this. I mean, again, it's 12 episodes, and they did already renew it for a second season, a whole other 12. But it's going to be an interesting ride, that's for sure. And this is why I mentioned the importance of Easter eggs last week, as in fitting an individual project, be it a film or a series, into the larger franchise as a whole, which has a really big fan base, and why people are interested in this individual project, because they love the bigger story. Rogue One was sold as how the Death Star plans were stolen, which of course set up the thrilling third act sequence in A New Hope. But it was even more than that when we saw the movie, because Rogue One also benefited from setting up and featuring other elements for A New Hope, which was a surprise. So maybe these elements will pop up in the other 8 episodes to come, but so far there's not even a crumb of them in the first 4 episodes. Like, for instance, with Rogue One, part of what made that such an incredible movie and a magical experience was the feeling of awe. And I still remember how I felt at that moment when it became clear to the audience, and it was a total surprise. And it was so cool that they managed to keep that a secret, that it led not only into A New Hope, but directly into A New Hope. I mean, and to have a movie that came out today lead directly into the front end of a movie that came out in the 1970s and was iconic, I mean, that was just such a cool idea, and they pulled it off flawlessly. It was a huge adrenaline rush. They were like, go, 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 and they were taking the plans, and you knew what was going to happen, but you saw how that came to be. Oh, I'll never forget it, and I still have that feeling every time I rewatch the movie. So far, Andor does not have that quality. But what it does have that Rogue One had was fantastic action and espionage sequences. That is where I liked Andor so far the most. Now, where does that happen in the first 4 episodes? Well, the opening of episode 1, just the opening, amazing. I couldn't believe my eyes what was happening. It's subtle, but it's amazing. And then what's not subtle is the second half of episode 3, which has a fantastic action sequence with lots of different things happening that were kind of all set leading up until that point. So even though I was kind of bored for part of the first 3 episodes, I was like, oh, well, at least it had a really cool payoff. Amazing. And those 2 things, the opening of episode 1 and the second half of episode 3, will bookend your initial Andor experience, as all 3 episodes are dropping on day 1. And I think that was very clever of Disney to do that. I think that needed to be done to make sure people had a good experience. If you ended on 1 or ended on 2, I don't know if people would come back. And I've seen, again, just the first 4, although I will tell you that 4 goes back to being kind of boring. But then maybe 5 is amazing again. But, it's going to be tough doing this week to week. Maybe it would have been better as a binge. We're still, I think, kind of torn on as to what's the better model. Some of you, I would advise, if you're not like a hardcore Star Wars fan who loves the Senate discussions and everything that they put out, you might watch the first 3, or maybe you might, so far there's really nothing that's going to get spoiled for you. So I think you could wait to binge it, quite frankly. And then maybe it'll be one heck of a ride. I'll let you know. But that's how it is so far. Now, during the parts that I really liked on Andor, I gasped out loud several times. I was like, wow, not just because of the high body count. So many people die. But because I was shocked that Disney let Tony Gilroy and company deliver such adult content. I also, wow. And I also greatly appreciated the cleverness and sophistication of the sequences that I liked. Although, please note, on this note, The show is definitely, at the very least, PG-13. I know a lot of you like to watch Disney Plus shows, particularly the Star Wars and Marvel ones, and probably the other Disney ones if any of you are watching them. But you like to watch it as a family with your children, which is wonderful. But I don't think you can watch this show with small children. As I said, PG-13 at the least. And you might be like, I don't believe you. Well, you know what? Watch the first episode. It's short. It's just about 30 minutes, and that will really give you a feel for what the tone of this show is. And then you can decide how you want to watch Andor. Because, there's not anything too violent or too sexual, so it's really whether or not you're okay with themes. And basically just a lot of characters a lot of extras being killed. Whoa. I also love Kyle Solar's Cyril, a driven bureaucrat whose naivete and lack of experience make him all the more dangerous. Especially because, foolishly, he's been given some authority. To see Star Wars explore the ineptitude and entitlement of upper management is a real hoot. Also I love business stuff. I also really love, on that note, Anton Lester's Imperial Officer, who, as I said in my initial reaction video, is sort of a take on Mr. Burns, and delivers his 2 monologues so far in episode 4 with the kind of zeal and flourish that classically trained British actors are known for, and it is a delight. So what are my problems with Andor? Well, I think the biggest problem is that instead of telling a really long story, like 2 or 3 movies worth, this is still just one movie that Gilroy and company have stretched out to 2 to 3 times the length that it should be. Like, someone needs to come in here and edit this down. In the first 4 episodes, at least, I feel a lot of things could be, as I just said, cut. Scenes start too early and end too late. Also, there's a whole backstory so far for Cassian Andor where the characters speak in a new language for Star Wars and subtitles aren't offered. Even when you turn on closed captioning, you don't know what they say. They just say, speaking in new language, or, the planet that they're on. Now, yes, as I'm sure some of you are typing right now, that is a bold creative choice that I could respect if the scenes were compelling. But they're not compelling. There's one little thing that was kind of interesting, and then it didn't go anywhere. At first I was like, oh, now we're cooking with gas, and I was like, nope. They just didn't engage us. So the result is that we're kept at a distance instead of being pulled in. Now, having seen the first 4 episodes, the way I would describe them to you is that they're writers, Tony Gilroy and his brother Dan, for the most part, for the whole season, and certainly these are the 2 guys who wrote the first 4 episodes. It's writers with no restrictions. And I know some of you are like, sounds like heaven to me, Grace. Every writer needs a good editor. No writer is so good that they don't need to be edited. It's just the truth. And with Toby Haynes directing and Tony Gilroy is his own showrunner. And Toby Haynes directed these first 4 episodes, and he directed my favorite episode of Black Mirror ever. But here he's unable or not allowed to tighten up the story, or, at least for long periods of time, even punch it up. It's just really writers in love with their own work. Now, you could easily, and I would recommend, cut 20 minutes out of the first 3 episodes. For sure, that could have and should have been done, and you really feel that drag. Now you might be like, how is this true, Grace? Because Rogue One was so good. Well, let me give you some evidence. Tony Gilroy did indeed save Rogue One from Gareth Edwards, coming in to fix the movie late in the game, and he helped make the Bourne franchise a sensation. Although here's where we start to see cracks in the facade. The weakest Bourne was the one that Tony Gilroy was totally in charge of. And when you look at his other movies, again, where he's fully in charge, Michael Clayton, Duplicity, and his brother Dan's work, who's also, as I said, part of Andor, Nightcrawler, Roman J. Israel, Velvet Buzzsaw, and you might be like, I loved Nightcrawler and Velvet Buzzsaw. Yeah, because Jake Gyllenhaal was in those movies, and Jake Gyllenhaal ain't in Andor. Maybe he should have been. Now, these projects are what Andor is like. Islands of definite brilliance in a sea of boring. And again, writers who have not been edited. Now, again, I've only seen the first 4 episodes. Maybe it gets much better. As I said, Lucasfilm has already greenlit a whole nother 12 of these. So maybe it gets much, much better. All right, and I would be here for it. And I will be the first to admit that it picks up. As for the rest of the cast, Diego Luna, with the exception of the opening scene, has surprisingly little to do for a show that is named Andor. What the heck? Sure, he's on screen a lot, and he's the catalyst, and all the other characters are certainly talking about him and revolving around him, But we're really not getting to know him at all, at least not yet. But how can you be 4 episodes into a show called Andor and really not know anything about Cassian Andor? I mean, I guess I know some stats for his baseball card, but I'm not learning anything about, there's no character exploration. Same with Stellan Skarsgard. I do have some interesting things to say about Stellan Skarsgard in the breakdown, although I think that'll have to wait for episode 4. Because again, those are the 4 I've seen. But there's something interesting happening with him as well, but it's only getting started. And while I love Fiona Shaw, and I was delighted to get to interview her, oh, it was amazing. She has very little to do in the first 4 episodes, which was weird. You were like, you're hardly in the first 4 episodes. I hope there's more of her, because what's there is, of course, it's Fiona Shaw. And then same with Genevieve O'Reilly and Denise Goh. Very little to do in the first 4 episodes. In the first 4, the female character with the most screen time is Adria Aronia, who comes off as very likable, but sadly her only real distinction so far is being the first female Star Wars character to strip down to her underwear. And come on, Tony Gilroy and Dan Gilroy, you can do better than that. A whole bunch of new characters are introduced in episode 4. A Vanity Fair GQ casting call for Rebels. And I'm fine with that, but we're only starting to get to know them. That was moving like glacially slow. I was like, so slow. I think there could maybe be half of you and we could get to know you better. Maybe there's some of them are red shirts though, but let's see. The whole show looks phenomenal. Oh, it's gorgeous. Movie level with world building on a major scale. And after being stuck on Tatooine for several shows now, it's great to see so much of the galaxy. That is a fantastic part of the show. And I know they said they didn't have a lot of VFX, but there's some stuff that's definitely VFX. I'm like, you didn't build that whole Star Wars ghetto. You didn't build that whole Star Wars housing complex. But it's very well realized and I like seeing it. But other than this is how the rebellion got started and recruited Cassian Andor, which we know is the setup from the trailers and the ad campaign, still, after watching 4 episodes, I have no idea where this is going. I have no idea. I loved Rogue One enough that I'll stick around to find out for the 8 episodes to go, but I hope that the Gilroys don't make it too much of a chore. Tony Gilroy has said he's quite proud that Andor offers no fan service. And some of you who took offense at my Easter egg comment were like, it's intentional, Grace. Tony Gilroy is an artiste. Well, someone should tell, his work that, because it's just not high enough quality to get away with not having any fan service in it. And I think it's silly not to use your safety net. First off, again, he really could have used it because the stuff's not good enough to stand on its own. But even if Andor was brilliant, and even if it does turn out to be brilliant in the future episodes, why not supercharge your brilliance and level your show up to be a Game of Thrones House of the Dragon juggernaut? Now, some of you have also countered, hey, Grace, there's nothing wrong with being Star Wars' Succession. But again, Andor isn't good enough to be Star Wars' Succession. I mean, maybe it'll improve. But right now, it ain't winning any writing and best drama awards. It's just not good enough. It's also far more expensive to make than Succession, which is something else that you have to keep in mind. I mean, if this was a Star Wars play, then Tony Gilroy could do whatever the heck he wanted. But it's not. It's a multi-million-dollar show that needs to perform for Disney+. And you might say, well, Succession performs for HBO, but that's because it's less expensive and it wins a bunch of awards. So Andor would have to have those same qualities. But Andor is a House of the Dragon. Andor is a Game of Thrones. And Succession only has, even as good as Succession is, by the way, only has a fraction of that audience. So you have to just understand the rules of mass appeal and when a project hits a certain budget level, it has a whole set of ramifications that it needs to, or things that it needs to deliver. And that's something that, I guess the best way to say it is that when art becomes really, really expensive to produce, then it takes on even more than, it definitely takes on. I would argue that all art that's made for Hollywood that sells a ticket has a business element to it. Even high art does. It just needs to sell only one ticket rather than hundreds of thousands. But really expensive commercial art like this has a responsibility to deliver on a business level. But let's see. Let's see. We'll see. Andor will have the last word in terms of audience viewership and awards down the line. That will decide how it performed. But that's my take on it. Andor's first 3 episodes debut tomorrow. So be sure to come back here for the breakdown. And in the meantime, share your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.